Greetings, gamers. Agent SN, and as you know, I made a Final Fantasy VII video for way back in November, and at the end of that video, I promised I was gonna talk about Final Fantasy VII Remake eventually, and here we are, because 2 weeks ago, exactly 2 weeks ago, the game Final Fantasy VII Remake turned 1 year. Turned 1 years old, and now that it has, I feel like it's the perfect time to finally talk about that. With that out of the way, let's get on with the video. Alright, so Final Fantasy VII was a massive success. After all, it made the PlayStation the way it is now. Both Final Fantasy VII, Spyro, and Crash Bandicoot, all of those games, Final Fantasy VII helped to make the console so well, and the game's absolute and the game was an absolute revolution because it really changed the series forever, and definitely a great way, as it basically JRPGs were already existing in the West already. However, they weren't as popular until this game hit. This game is the reason why so many other JRPG series like Dragon Quest, Pokemon, what else? So yeah, Dragon Quest, Pokemon, Shin Megami Tensei, all that stuff, Trails, yeah, basically that kind of stuff. All those JRPG series were born, or at least became popular in the West, because of the massive success of this game. This game really changed the series forever, and for years, people demanded for a remake. In fact, in 2005, at E3 of that year, there was a tech demo for the PS3 that showed off what would kind of be a remake of this game, and it looked really amazing. I mean, the graphics were so realistic, and although this didn't become a real game, and although it basically just stayed a tech demo, this was honestly quite epic. So yeah, and the fans still demanded for remake constantly, but the dream never came true until. So it wasn't until E3 2015 when the game was finally announced at Sony's E3 as a timed PS4 exclusive. However, there was only 2 trailers for this game that was shown, one at E3, one at the PlayStation Experience later on in the year. However, a remaster did drop of the original game, which was later ported to Switch, Xbox One, PC. Yeah, well, actually, the remaster is on the PS4. That's not the remake. It's actually a port of the PC version. The version that you see on Steam. And it's also the same version you see on the Switch, the same version you see on the Xbox. Yeah, that came like towards the end of the year, but it's kind of a build up to this game, and yeah, and at the time when this game was announced, I thought it was really amazing. Before this game was announced, that was back when I hadn't played a single Final Fantasy game yet, but I thought it was cool. However, alright, now about during the same year, Cloud was also revealed as a DLC character to also basically have the build up to remake, as Cloud was added to Smash, which is honestly really amazing because I mean, I never really became part of the Final Fantasy community until 3 years later, but at the time, I thought this was really nice, and I started using him a lot, and now he's my main. So yeah, and all this was made and built for this game. However, after 2015, Square Enix was really silent about this game. That was because a lot of the inspiration for Final Fantasy 15, I mean 7 Remake, was for Final Fantasy 15. Final Fantasy 15 was actually took a lot of inspiration from Final Fantasy 7 Remake, and in fact, Square Enix had to release this game first, as well as Kingdom Hearts 3, in order to get Final Fantasy 7 Remake ready. And this game used completely realistic graphics, was built with a brand new engine, and and this had a lot of potential, basically. And overall, I like Final Fantasy 15. It's not perfect, but I like it. It's definitely good. And the gameplay here, and in fact, and now being a full action RPG, this game basically inspired Final Fantasy VII Remake. But without further ado, let's get on with the actual game itself. Alright, so after years of silence, Final Fantasy VII Remake finally released worldwide on April 10th, 2020. And overall, this game was honestly quite different. Let me say, because I gotta say something. Despite this being called a remake, this game's actually not a remake. It is actually a completely different game. Because here's the thing. What this game really is it's only a remake of the Midgar part. And it's basically like an expanded version of the Midgar story from the original, which is like the first 10 hours of the original game, I think. Maybe like first 5 to 10 hours, yeah. So the first bit of the original Final Fantasy VII is expanded into a full game here. And overall, it plays pretty differently with the fact that now it looks like Final Fantasy 15. The character models now are now really realistic. And not only that, but it also, it's also very, very realistic, like I said. And the fact that it's also now a complete action RPG, like I said about Final Fantasy 15. Overall, this game is honestly a really great game. But now let's get on to what's different. Because this game is not a remake. This is actually a completely different game disguised as a remake. It's actually a reboot. So yeah, this game's actually quite a lot different from the original. But and a lot of things we only did like a few times in the original, or things that you just didn't do as much. You're now doing a lot here, as well, maybe not a lot, but we do more of it here, I guess. Things that weren't in the Midgar part of the original are kind of expanded into here, and because we're in the Midgar part, this game only has 4 characters. It has Cloud, Tifa, Barret, and Aerith. Yes, just those 4. There's no Vincent, no Cid, and there is Yuffie. But that's only in the upcoming PS5 version, known as Final Fantasy VII Remake Integrate, which I will talk about later in this video. But and with it being that way, it's quite different. Now, they still get and the materia system is still included. However, it's now very different. Well, not very different, and you get different summons for some of it, and many things that weren't in the original. But now let's go with the world itself. Alright. Now, yeah, like I said, this is only set in the gigantic city known as Midgar, in this game now. And because of it, you're going to be seeing a lot of characters that were in the original. I mean, there's several that weren't there. Not only that, but Shinra's is also different, and many things, and let me also say too that this game is also episodic, just like Final Fantasy 15. Actually no, not episodic, but yeah, not episodic, but this game, just like Final Fantasy 15, this game has chapters. Different parts of the story are split into chapters now. There are a total of 18 in this game. Final Fantasy 15. At that setup, 13 did, and now here we are at Final Fantasy VII Remake, and it does too. Like I said, this game takes a lot of inspiration from Final Fantasy 15. However, now it plays in the style of the Midgar part of Final Fantasy VII Remake. Each of the and each of them involves like different stories with different things, and different areas of Midgar 2, and yeah. And because this is completely different, of course, you're going to be fighting a bunch of bosses that aren't in the original. Or, and if you play the original, you know there's an enemy around different parts of Midgar that's like a house. Well, now you're fighting that as an actual boss. Yes, you're fighting it as an actual boss. I'm being that serious. I'm being that serious. Yep. You fight a house with an actual boss during one part of the game. Yeah, which is kind of weird, I guess, but okay. So, but that's just an example, and you also fight Sephiroth differently at the end. The story is also different completely. I mean, it still involves Cloud chasing down Sephiroth and stuff, but it's only like an expanded part of the Midgar spot. And so that means it's going to be much more of a plot with Shinra. And yeah. Now, I don't want to go... Now, I don't want to talk too much about the story because I don't want spoilers in this video, and I want you guys to play it first if you're into it. Which I do recommend this game. But let's get on with more. And because it's also a completely different game, you're also going to see different quests, of course. Yes, different quests, because this is a different game. And, yeah. The story is quite different. Which is fine, I guess. And you're going to see many quests that are basically different, too. As there's a lot to be here, basically. And you're basically going to be, just exploring Midgar. Now, I still got all the story of the original, but it's now added into this. Well, actually, no, not all the story. You get all the story of the Midgar section just all in here. Like I said, this game only remakes that part. So yeah. However, Square Enix is going to be doing several sequels to this game to cover more of the original story. So don't worry. They're going to do multiple remakes, so they're probably going to release over the next 10 years, I guess. They're expecting it to extend into the next console generation. So yeah. Anyway, though, this game has a lot here, and this game is definitely a lot of fun. I personally prefer the original because it's much more expanded and stuff, but overall, this is still a good game. And I definitely do recommend it. I give it a 9 out of 10. Anyway, though, guys, well, actually, never mind, we're not done yet. Because I have one more thing to say. This game also has an upcoming version 2 for the PS5. Like I said, this game is a timed PlayStation exclusive. There will be a PS5 version coming in June as well, known as Final Fantasy VII Remake Integrated, where you also get new content with Yuffie, which is honestly really nice. And they could do more, but that's but it's not really good enough until part 2. Which I'm expecting part 2 probably after Final Fantasy 16, which is completely built for next gen. But yeah, the new PS5 version has Yuffie. Though what I don't understand is that the new Yuffie DLC, the new Yuffie side story, it's only on the PS5. Now, if you have this game on the PS4, you do get a free upgrade. But you have to pay $20 to get the new content with the Yuffie DLC, which is called Intermission. However, here's something I don't understand. If you have the game with PlayStation Plus, because this game was included with that last month, you don't get the free upgrade, which is honestly quite a scam. Don't know why Sony did that, where the PlayStation Plus people don't get a free upgrade. But yeah. But anyway, though, that's it for this video for real this time. I will see you guys next time. Agent S out. And stay tuned because I also have several more Final Fantasy Frustrated and Fantastic videos coming later this month. So expect Final Fantasy 6 next. But first, I gotta go work on a long Super Mario 3D Land World video. See you guys next time. Agent S out. That's all I have to say for now.